Hi, welcome to the Fit and Healthy Today show. And today our topic matter is on, per customer request, fibromyalgia syndrome, if I can get that out of my mouth. There's a lot of confusion about what this disorder actually is, and it's a very difficult to diagnose syndrome. The best way for diagnostics is to take, there's certain 18 types of pressure points, and if your doctor or healthcare professional presses on any of these and you have pain in 11 of these areas, chances are good you have fibromyalgia. What it is it's a rheumatic disorder characterized by achy, throbby, kind of muscular pain, and it can move around in these different areas, the 18 spots. And if you need help with that, you can stop by the Lompoc store and I can kind of point out those points that you can discuss with your doctor and test it on yourself, or you can actually look that up online. But mostly it affects women, and we don't know particularly why, other than maybe might be some of the root triggers and root causes that seem to trigger fibromyalgia. Most severe when people wake up, and it seems to gradually dissipate throughout the day. But there are people, when it's severe, that are basically incapacitated for days. So that being the case, let's see what we can give you a little bit better description, a little bit more about what the triggers are, and obviously avoiding some of the triggers so that we don't trigger fibromyalgia. The symptoms include particularly fatigue and sleep disturbances. People that have fibromyalgia do not get very good dreaming REM sleep. They just don't. So actually, it makes them feel absolutely exhausted. There's certain brainwave patterns that seem to be exerted as a result of this disorder. Anxiety, depression, dizziness and headaches, difficulty concentrating. Obviously, a lot of these things can be due to pure sleep disturbances, whether it's sleep apnea or other disorders that we'll talk about, that your doctor should test you for before obviously diagnosing fibromyalgia. Irritable bowel syndrome, your skin will tingle, jaws will hurt, heart palpitations, and heightened senses. Oh, too loud, too bright, doesn't smell good. All that seems to be affected by particular types of brainwave patterns and how a person that has fibromyalgia receives and processes information. Hopefully something doctors, so far I've not seen a very good ability to diagnose this particular syndrome, but hopefully maybe this will give you information to research so that you can help your doctor if you suspect you have this. Well, we don't really know what the actual cause is. We can't say, okay, this is or this is, but there seems to be some common features among people that suffer from fibromyalgia that seem to be these things happened to them before they had this disorder occur. Oftentimes, they have a lot of sleep issues. They'll be on sleep medications, and oftentimes throughout the years, they will have overexerted themselves, gone through a traumatic event, a divorce, spouse dying, kids sick, taking care of sick parents, can all trigger this extreme amount of stress that physiologically affects us both psychologically and physically. Chemical imbalances in the brain, especially that of serotonin. So if someone's on a lot of antibiotics, and remember the majority of your serotonin is produced in your bowel, not in your head, boy, you have issues with irritable bowel or anything involving the bowel, that can be a trigger for fibromyalgia. Infected with other viruses, such as Epstein-Barr. A lot of people who have Epstein-Barr or chronic fatigue syndrome, which tends to affect the nerves more than the muscle tissues. Sometimes if you get a viral infection, that will be a trigger for fibromyalgia. It just kind of sits there and waits. Hormone imbalances, particularly thyroid hormone imbalances, can trigger fibromyalgia. Poor digestion, detoxification. Once again, we talked about how serotonin is produced in the bowel. If you're not detoxing, eating lousy food on a cellular level, the body can't repair itself. Good old hamburgers and hot dogs and all those things are the staple of your diet. Oh boy, besides the other things that we've talked about over the last year and a half, this can be triggered. Toxic metal exposure, particularly from mercury amalgam fillings. Mercury, lead, heavy metal exposure can contribute both neurological and muscular disorders, including fibromyalgia. Blood sugar imbalances. They estimate 1/5 of our population in the next 10 years or so will have diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Scary, very scary thought, and this is just not among the elderly, it's among the young and among the middle-aged people, people in my age category. If you've got a lot of candida or parasites, once again, throughout the body on a muscular, cellular level and in the bowel, parasites and candida affect the bowel. Nutritional deficiencies, particularly minerals. So if your doctor says you can get all your stuff from your diet, he's wrong. I'll say that point blank. He's wrong. The commercial farming that we have today, and I can say that because I was in agriculture and I have an ag background in the dairy business, and I got to tell you, the soil ain't what it was. It doesn't have the minerals and necessary nutrients anymore for us to be healthy. So when the news tells you you can get this from your food, they're full of absolutely, they're wrong. Buildup of phosphate or uric acid, and that comes from eating tons and tons of meat, fats, and sugars, and processed carbohydrates that can cause that uric acid buildup. Structural abnormalities and accidents, particularly if you get in a car accident. I have several customers who were in a car accident and got fibromyalgia. We don't know whether or not it messed with their spinal column, whether or not it had something to do with the trauma that they went through. All we know is it triggered fibromyalgia. The key is here is these lead, and I underline this and highlighted this, this leads to a defect on how cells produce energy in the mitochondria. The mitochondria in your cells, and here we go, this is a little bit of high school biology, are the powerhouses of the cells. People who have fibromyalgia, the powerhouses go, turn the electricity down. Hence the muscles will hurt, other things occur, all the other disturbances that we discussed about on symptoms occur. The diet for people that have fibromyalgia has to be strict. No one way or the other, it's got to be strict. And 50% of it needs to come from raw, uncooked foods. Point blank. If you're out there eating the good old burger diet and you got fibromyalgia, you're going to always hurt. And you're going to complain and you're going to gripe. And there's something that you can do about it. That's very irritating for people around you when you sit and complain and gripe and you do nothing. Here's something that you can do that's very proactive. Raw vegetables, especially greens. Lots and lots of greens. They oxygenate, they alkali the blood. Lots of lean proteins. And we're talking about 5 meals, 6 meals a day. We're going to spread this out throughout the day. That involves some source of protein. It's actually very good for weight loss and weight maintenance as well. But protein helps the brain wake up. It keeps the sugar stable, along with things like nuts and fatty acids, fish, avocados, and then some of the supplements we'll talk about as well too. Cultured milk, yogurt products, particularly kefir and yogurts, can be helpful, but oftentimes they're not sufficient. We usually require a higher dosage. These are 1 million, and the pills you can get are in the billions. So, glass of water every 2 hours. I have more people complain about issues with fibromyalgia. They don't drink water. I don't know how they expect their body to detox and run, considering we're a majority of water. How do you maintain the body without adequate amounts of water? You must. Okay? No excuses. You just got to do it. Consider a vegetable juice fasting maybe for 3 days. It can jumpstart, get things moving, alkali the blood, get you to hurt a lot less. My job is to give you as much information as I can so you don't hurt no more. And maybe, just maybe, and I've seen this many times, you no longer have fibromyalgia. In my opinion, it is reversible. Not everybody will agree with me, but I think a lot of it has to do with those triggers that we listed above. When we correct those triggers, you don't have fibromyalgia no more. Avoiding saturated fats, particularly beef fat, heavy meat fats, trans fatty acids, it causes a lot of inflammation, something called arachidonic acid, and you need a little bit of arachidonic acid for cellular repair, but you get too much, oh boy, you're going to hurt. It's going to produce certain types of prostaglandins that are going to cause you intense amount of pain. Limit consumption, and this goes for arthritic patients as well. You're going to limit the consumption of peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, and potatoes. They have a chemical called solanine, which blocks enzyme activity in the muscle. So think about that in terms of whenever you have any muscle pains, you kind of want to avoid these things. Even muscle aches and pains from other sources as well too. Avoiding caffeine, alcohol, or sugar is an absolute must. They make you acidic. When you're acidic, you're going to hurt all the time. I had someone come in today, she drinks 8 cups of coffee a day and she wonders why she hurts all the time. An excellent antioxidant, but she's acidic. Her muscles and her nerves, she can't understand why she hurts. Get off most of the coffee. A cup, 2 a day, that's okay. You know, preferably organic, but because it doesn't have all the chemical solvents. But go to look for low acid coffees, 1 or 2 cups a day. Now, a lot of people with fibromyalgia do not feel like exercising. I want to sit in my chair and just moan in my pain. No. You people out there who have spouses or kids that have this, get them up and get them moving. The moment they sit down, they're never going to get up from that chair. You've got to get them walking. They can do band exercises, yoga, stretching, all those times. Now, we're not talking strenuous exercise because in fibromyalgia people, this actually can trigger issues. But we're talking about 30 minutes a day, at least 30 minutes, 3 or 4 days a week, where you're moving and you're stretching and you're walking, you're getting things moving. Very important clinical studies on movement in fibromyalgia and pain reduction. Before you say, oh, I got fibromyalgia, I think you need to have your physician and utilize his expertise as far as testing procedures are done. Test for and see whether or not you've got depression. Anemia, low iron levels, low B12 levels can cause muscle aches and pains and headaches and all kinds of things. I had a lady come in today. Doctor never bothered to check her iron levels. Her eyes were blacker than coal and other symptoms she had for iron. And I told her, it says, go in your doc, have your iron levels checked. I think your iron is very, very low. So, hepatitis, Lyme's, thyroid. These are all things that need to be checked for. It's easy to say you got fibromyalgia. Check for these things first, okay? I could give you 5 pages of supplements that I know that help with different things for fibromyalgia. I'm going to just touch upon the main ones that I think are the most important, okay? Magnesium citrate, actually it should say glycinate, that should be a G instead of an F, a little bit of finger play on there. Or aspartate, 250 milligrams 3 times a day. This is needed for serotonin production. You docs out there who are putting people on serotonin reuptake inhibitors, you might want to consider that your patients might be magnesium deficient. It also relaxes the muscles, makes a spasm a lot less, particularly when you combine it with a little bit of calcium citrate or bone sources of calcium. Vitamin D, lots of study on vitamin D and immune and pain with fibromyalgia. Everything on here I'm listing has studies. Sometimes I'll mention it, but everything on here has studies to back it up. So this isn't just Heike talking out her mouth. This is studies, Mayo Clinic, university types of studies. Malic acid increases cellular energy. 5-HTP is a precursor to the brain that increases serotonin output. Raising the serotonin helps you sleep, helps kill pain. You can't take 5-HTP though when you're on antidepressants. Not a good idea. SAMe helps with depression, pain, fatigue, stiffness. Only a 6-week study, being on for 6 weeks, made a significant difference for people. So it wasn't even a lengthy study. After 6 weeks, people already felt better. MSM, and I have so many customers that comment about MSM and their fibromyalgia. And one lady brought her daughter in and got her on it to help her because the mother and daughter both have fibromyalgia. And 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day, you can increase it to 10,000 milligrams a day initially to get the pain down. It works. Works for other things too, but for muscle, helps with muscle pain a lot. Good multivitamin, high in B, is essential for energy and brain function and serotonin and lots of things. Good fatty acids, and we talked about the nuts, walnuts, almonds, pecans, but supplement-wise, a tablespoon of flax or a tablespoon of fish oil a day increases your anti-inflammatory abilities as well. Good bacteria, those good bacteria help you manufacture serotonin, which help you with the pain. Get those levels up, minimum of 4 billion a day on an empty stomach. Enzymes to digest the food, because a lot of people that have fibromyalgia, their body's dedicated to so much, their enzymes are so dedicated to keeping them functioning. They don't have ester C with bioflavonoids, a divided dosage of 5 to 10,000 milligrams. Yeah, not ascorbic acid, but high dosages help the immune system deal with whatever this is. And it also helps with pain and inflammation. CoQ10, creatine has some brand new studies on fibromyalgia. It increases ATP, which is a cellular function in the cells that increases energy. NADH on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, CoQ10. These all increase cellular energy to help you get over the fatigue and the pain. Went through this real fast, a lot more stuff. If you need more detail, you can stop by one of the stores. But hopefully that gives you a good place to start. Next, we're going to be moving on to the fitness portion of our show. Thank you. Hi, welcome to the fitness portion of our show. Over the next 7 weeks, I'll be reviewing the 7 chakras and exercises for them. You know, we talk so much about physical health that I thought, you know what, let's work on a little bit on emotional health as well. In the chakra system, and this is what 1/3 of the world believes in, you know, India, Pakistan, all of that, that we have 7 energy systems with some minor systems, and each of them develop and progress as we grow older or as we become more connected to God, source, whatever you choose in your religious beliefs. But each of these chakras develop differently, and they each affect different aspects of our emotional life. Like the first chakra is very grounding. You know, you fall on your butt, you fall on the ground. You're about from age 7 to 14, you get that second chakra, which is your sexual energy, your creativity. Oh, what am I going to do with things? Your solar plexus is your 3rd chakra, which is your will and your power. And boy, if anybody has a 14 to 20-year-old, you know that 3rd chakra is engaged because they're developing that part. 4th chakra is the heart, and that's where we develop our sense of compassion and love. And it develops between age 21 and 28. So if people are isolated, busy doing their own thing, oftentimes that part of them will never develop. 3rd chakra, what else? Communication, ability to express oneself. 3rd chakra, this is your intuition. That little, what we call gut feeling that goes to the brain and we kind of analyze things. Intuition, it's also known as your 3rd eye. And then in Ayurvedic medicine, we have something called the crown chakra, which is our connection to source and unity with all others. I'll be reviewing various exercises that will work on each of these areas that are primarily yoga positions. So no exercises today, but be ready over the next 7 weeks, or next actually 14 weeks. I'll be having you practice these for a solid 2-week period of time. Thank you, and next we'll be moving on to the research portion of our show. The research portion of our show, and with us today is Ralph Turchiano.
And thank you for the intro.
Welcome.
Well, the beginning, we'll start with DEET. DEET, remember, is a popular insecticide that's usually used to repel mosquitoes, and parents for a long period of time have always been a little bit cautious in regards to its use because of the fear of being a chemical. Well, now, for once and for all, it has been confirmed. In the headline, the popular insect repellent DEET is a neurotoxin. How is it a neurotoxin? Well, it seems to inhibit a chemical activity in the central nervous system, one particularly called acetylcholinesterase. Now, this may sound familiar if you're looking at areas, for example, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and basically as far as they were trying to raise those levels often to ameliorate those effects of those diseases. Well, to put it a different way, DEET stops it, shuts it down. How many people are putting DEET on their kids to protect them from mosquitoes? Many. In their words, also, they find that DEET is often used in combination with other insecticides, even compounding the problems. Remember, it was not too long ago when the Gulf War broke out, there was a lot of suspicion that the insecticide use among the troops may have caused or contributed partly to Gulf War syndrome. Now that we know what it does and does for certain, they should really look into that. They were nailed with tons of pesticides. After that, going back to our kids, vitamin D. Well, there's a little bit of a shortage in vitamin D in the population of our children. How short or how bad are the vitamin D levels in our kids? Well, to give you an idea, 70% of our children are low in vitamin D. In their words, they said, quote, "We expected the prevalence of vitamin D deficiency would be high, but the magnitude of the problem nationwide was, quote unquote, shocking to these people." They said they thought vitamin D deficiency would be rare. Why? Because you're supposed to get everything you can from your food. Well, obviously that wasn't occurring. In addition, according to the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, they said a major factor contributing to the vitamin D deficiency was, quote unquote, the widespread use of sunscreens which block UVB rays has only, they say, compounded the problem. The body uses UVB sunlight to convert a form of cholesterol in the skin into vitamin D. And the major reason it's a problem, a lot of kids don't do multivitamins on top of that. In fact, they were surprised to find out that only 4% of the children that were in the study took any vitamins at all. Ironically, the 4% that took the vitamins weren't deficient in vitamin D. Wow, go figure that out. All right, now, here's a reason why not to come to America, especially if you're of Hispanic origin. This is a big thing when you look at it when you come to the United States, because the United States tends to be a very fast-paced, stressful area. Well, according to the Department of Epidemiology at the University of Miami, what do you think your chances of getting cancer moving from your home country to here would be increased by? 10, 20, 25? Well, in reality, if you're living in Cuba, if you're living in Puerto Rico, you live in Mexico, you come to the United States, your chance of cancer increases to 40% greater than if you were back in your home country. And on top of that, it's something to think about. Since 2050, 1 in 3 of our population will be of Hispanic origin. So again, something to think about. Why is it occurring to this population group in such a large number? And coming to America necessarily may not be necessarily all the things we think it is to be until we fix these issues. All right. And of course, part of the U.S. culture is antidepressants. Our antidepressant use since 1996 has doubled in the age group from 6 years old to adults, meaning where 5.3% or so of the United States was taking antidepressants in 1996. Now it's about 10.5%. The unusual part about it, I was trying to figure out in regards to the study, and this study came out of Columbia University and the New York State Psychiatric Institute in New York City. Why they had to go back all the way to the age group or age of 6 years old to accumulate all the data, I'd be really curious to know how much it's increased in our adult population. In any case, they are concerned because they're finding out the drugs are becoming a substitute for counseling and psychotherapy. They're just throwing the medications out there because guess what? It's cheaper than having to actually find out what an issue is and solving it. In fact, they don't even know why the antidepressant use is skyrocketing. They're finding antidepressant use being used from everything from acne to intestinal disorders all the way across the board, to the point now where antidepressants are the #1 selling drug in the United States. You know you got a better economy, you know you got a better culture when you don't need to use drugs to try to make you feel better all the time. Pretty amazing, and again, to their words, it was shocking. Again, another shocking statement. Of course, if it gets out of control, let's look at Spain. Guess how many women are taking antidepressants in Spain? Just to give you an idea when there is no psychotherapy being offered. Well, in Spain, 1 out of every 4 women are on antidepressants. That is 25%. That doesn't begin to touch how many are on tranquilizers. In Spain, 30%, about 1 in 3 of all women, regardless of age group, females, period, are on tranquilizers. Something's really wrong with that picture. Our ancestors would have never imagined such a thing so many years ago. But let's go to beet juice. Well, beet juice kind of fits in here, kind of interesting, because it comes down to exercise and stamina. Well, they discovered in the University of Exeter that beet juice increased your stamina up to 16%, meaning you could exercise up to 16% longer doing beet juice. How much beet juice? Only 500 milliliters of organic beet juice. It is specified organic. For how long did they have to take in order to increase their exercise length by 16%? 6 days. They only had to take beet juice for 6 days to increase their exercise endurance up to 16%. Pretty freaking amazing from beet juice of all things. But that's going to go hand in hand with the physical inactivity in the United States. Came out of the American Psychological Association, Americans are becoming extremely inactive. In fact, 25 to 35% of Americans do absolutely nothing. I'm talking no walking, no nothing. That means 40 to 50 million Americans will probably die a very early death from some sort of ailment, but by that time will be our government and structured health care system, which I'm sure will help you greatly. All right, so that means these poor fitness levels, at least in the immediate term, contribute to 16% of all deaths. But the weird part about that with exercise, like for example in women, breast cancer rates went down 55% and so on and so forth, just by simple exercise. And the amazing thing about it, it only required 30 minutes of walking. Go to the mall, do something. It's not really a big option. It's not a challenge. Don't make it an issue. In their words, they said, quote unquote, for the American Psychological Association, this is the biggest health problem of the 21st century, which is why I like Time Magazine's article, Why Exercise Won't Make You Thin. Time Magazine, through its hyperbole and taking data from here and there, decided to dedicate 6 pages to basically why exercise is not good for weight loss, leaving out things like body fat percentages, that muscle may increase metabolism to some extent, and so on and so forth, waist circumference, the whole lineup. They actually almost went as far to say that exercise contributes to obesity. No wonder people are getting so confused. Drink water, they'll come out with an article saying you drink too much. Exercise to try to save your health, they'll come out with an article saying, well, exercise will make you fat. It is the biggest, most bogus scientific data I've ever seen. Of all the things going on in the world, 6 pages to why exercise will not make you thin. They have to really rethink that. Well, that ends the story segment. Any other questions? You know where to get a hold of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Beet juice, wow. Once again, research for yourself, go online, talk to your healthcare professionals, whatever you can do to take care of your health, do it. Thank you very much.